Hi, I'm Pranav from the ACJ, and today we'll be speaking with Dr. Nagaraj, a faculty member here who's done extensive research on poverty and economic inequality in India. Dr. Nagaraj, what is your opinion on media coverage of economic inequality in general in India?
The Indian media is a very complex entity with somewhat contradictory sides to it. On the one hand, you see this phenomenon of what may be called page three journalism, which basically concerns itself with the lifestyle of the rich and the famous, increasingly invading the media because of commercial considerations and things like that. But at the same time, it is also covered once in a while at least, and quite often, I would say, intense forms of deprivation, episodes of deprivation. Like, for example, if there is a flood or if there is any chance of mass hunger, things of that sort get covered. But day-to-day hunger is something the Indian media hasn't covered with any degree of intensity. But at the same time, I would also like to point out that while it has covered, say, at one extreme the lifestyle of the rich and the famous, at the other extreme, say, intense forms of deprivation to some extent, it has never linked it to, in terms of, say, the extent of inequality, the increasing inequality in the country, and how, in fact, there are two sides of the same coin. Luxurious lifestyle on the part of a small section and very poor conditions on the part of the other. This has never been attempted, almost never been attempted. Inequality has never been an issue.
How much coverage is there in the Indian media of differently abled people and their issues, and what type of coverage is there?
In fact, in terms of the total amount of coverage of what may be called the differently abled or disabled people in India, I think the coverage is extremely limited. The coverage also, I suppose, takes place only when there is something which catches the eyeballs. Okay, and day-to-day problems that, say, the differently abled people face in this country would hardly get any coverage because they are supposed not to have any news value. Okay, so that's the problem. The problem is also much more deeper in the sense disability in some sense is a whole spectrum. Okay, you have extreme disability on the one hand, and you have very invisible types of disability on the other hand. Now, it's only when you have a news on, say, extreme disability that something gets covered in the media. Whole lot of other issues relating to the whole spectrum of disability, which would have very serious social, economic and cultural consequences, would hardly ever get covered. Educating the public in terms of the prevalence of these various types of disability and what could be done about it, I think is a major function that the media can play, and this is where I think the media has not done its duty in terms of a section of the population which is very large in this country and which is deprived.
And sir, when the Indian media portrays differently abled individuals, they normally portray them as victims or as objects. What should the media do to empower the differently abled?
This particular issue I think is related to the larger issue of the understanding of the differently abled in the society as a whole. Differently abled are generally seen as not normal, okay, normal within quotes, and they are outside the pale of the society as well, and nothing can be done about them, or the type of things that have to be done about them is basically as victims. But the differently abled also have more often than not talents which in fact the normal population would not have. Okay. This is particularly true of a large number of what are called the learning disabilities. Now, the absence of a general understanding of this broader issue in the society as a whole, I think gets reflected in the way it is covered even in the press. But if the press has a role in terms of educating the population, in terms of the abilities of the so-called disabled people, in terms of the special, special abilities that they very often can have and what they can do about it, I think that would be a major step ahead.